If you're trying to stabilize your knees, especially when you're going downhill, maybe you notice that your quads are more sore. Maybe you notice that your knees are a little achy or they just don't feel stable when you're going downhill and you just want to let it rip, let it fly when you're running down that hill. Well, we really just need to focus on strengthening our hips, strengthening our quads so we can stabilize our knee. So I'm going to show you 3 of my favorite exercises as a physical therapist that you can do to help stabilize your knee when you're running downhill. For the first exercise, we're going to strengthen our hips. So go ahead and grab a resistance band. This is a light resistance band, so it's really stretchy. And I prefer that over a heavier resistance because you want to be able to go through this full range so we can strengthen into that range. So go ahead and place this resistance loop around your ankles. If you want to modify, you can place it right above your knees. You're going to stand on the leg that has a little bit of that knee discomfort. And all you're going to do, bend that knee, make sure that you're loading your quad and your glute. You're not just sticking your knee forward. And on the other side, all we're going to do is bring that leg forward, around as you push into the band and back. Almost like you're making a semicircle, around and back. So on this side, we're working on single leg stability. On this side, we're working on some hip abduction into flexion and extension. A lot of hip stability is happening on both sides, which is why I love this exercise. It's really important to have strong and stable hips into that single leg stance and dynamically because we want to make sure that when our hips are strong, it controls what's happening at the knee. So make sure this knee that's in stance leg is not caving in, your kneecap's not rotating in, your hips aren't rotated like this. You want to make sure they're facing straight ahead. And this exercise is all about control. So the more control you have, the stronger your hips will be. Also make sure you're not leaning to one side as you do this. So when you're done with that side, we'll go ahead and do the other side. And I always like to do about 5 each side. But remember, these are done really slow. So you're not just rushing through the exercise. You're keeping it controlled. This leg is pushing out into the band. You can always let it drop down on your ankles. Pushing out as far as you can the entire time. For the next exercise, I want you to grab 2 wedges. You can also grab 2 small plates, 2 books, and all you're gonna do is prop up your heels onto these wedges. So when we do this, and we go into a squat like this, we're gonna be loading more of our quads, which we wanna do. We wanna make sure our knees are nice and stable when we're going down that decline or even going down the stairs if you're also having pain with that. So all we're gonna do, squat down, make sure your butt's back. Trunk is a little bit more upright. You're not just hinging your trunk forward. Squat down and up. If you wanna progress this, you can always hold a weight. And if you wanna modify it, maybe you're noticing when you're going down really far into that squat, you're having some pain. So instead of just skipping the exercise, I suggest modifying it. Try going into a smaller range and up. Or if you're holding a weight, having pain, you can always decrease that weight. So modify it as you need to. I don't ever like to completely just throw an exercise out before we try some different modifications. Good, you should feel those quads being loaded. Those glutes are also being loaded, but because our heels are propped up, we are focusing more on that quad contraction. Very good. We'll do 2 more. Last one. Perfect. Go ahead and set these wedges off to the side. And the last exercise you're gonna do, you're gonna come down onto your knees and the tops of your feet are gonna be laying on your mat. We're going into a reverse Nordic curl. If you've ever done a Nordic curl before, you know it works your hamstrings, your feet are attached under a block, and you're going forward to work on your hamstrings. Well, now we're going the opposite way. So you don't need any equipment for this unless you want a dumbbell handy in case you want to progress it. But all you're going to do is keep your shoulders in line with your hips and your hips in line with your knees. So one straight line the entire time. You can cross your arms and all you're going to do is lean your body back as it stays in one straight line. You're not tucking your pelvis forward or too far back. You'll feel your quads being stretched, and then you'll come back up. Now, the goal here is to keep your body in one line. That way you can start to contract those quads into what we call an eccentric contraction. All that means is you're lengthening the quads as you're contracting it right here and then coming on up. I don't want you hinging at your hips because then we lose that eccentric quad contraction. You really want to lean back. Your body stays in one straight line and then you come back up. So you're going as far back as you can before you feel like you lose that quality of movement, before you feel like you lose that line, or you're going back as far as you feel like you can based on your quad strength. Ooh. This one is such a burner, but it's so good. If you're working on that eccentric quads, maybe you have a hilly race coming up, maybe you're noticing your knees aren't as stable, or you're even having a little bit of pain when you're going downhill. Ooh, let's do 2 more. Last one. Now we only did one exercise to really work on our glute strength. I do recommend you do a little bit more glute strength if you're wanting to strengthen and stabilize those knees. So I recommend you go through this video here, go through those exercises, and I'll see you in the next video. If you like these exercises, but now you want a little bit more and you want to see what exercises you should do to strengthen your knees for going uphill, just let me know in the comments.